AstroDetectives, the show where we try to match our guests to their correct astrological birth chart. As always, we have two charts to choose from, and today our guest is either a Leo or a Pisces. I'm Scott, a skeptic of astrology, and I'm joined by my co-host and professional astrologer, Sarah Hartshorn. Sarah, what are we going to do about the Leo and the Pisces this week? How are they different?
What are we going to do with them?
What are we going to do with them?
We're going to grill them, Scott. Yeah, okay. Well, Leo and Pisces, these are pretty different signs from each other. They're what we would call inversion. They have an aversion to each other, meaning they don't have a relationship on the astrological wheel to each other. So that means they're quite different. So Leo is a fire sign, fixed fire. So it is really about, Leo rules the sun. So if you think of the sun, it's the center of the universe. It's very warm. Leos are very generous and loyal, and they lead with their heart. They're very creative and expressive, and they kind of radiate, warmth and want to be the center of the universe, So it's a very like kind of Leos can have very big personalities. Pisces, on the other hand, is a mutable water sign. It's very much, and it's the last of the 12 signs. So there's this idea of kind of like this idea of like transcendence and mysticism, and it's the most non-physical of all the signs. And so a lot of Pisces often have trouble with being in physical reality because it's so different than what their being wants, So they can be very altruistic, very it's kind of like I always think of the kind of like Jesus archetype. It's that kind of like really altruistic, spiritual, merging with everybody, universal love kind of themes to Pisces. So
Well, it'll
yeah.
be a surprise if we've got Jesus coming on. That would be incredible.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Yeah, so Leo and Pisces are very you know, different energies from each other. Yeah.
Now, one thing that you didn't mention is Leo is a yang and Pisces is a yin.
Oh,
And
Scott.
yeah, I know this because I'm looking at my two little cards that you sent me, the Pisces
Yes.
and the Leo card, one of which we'll be choosing with later in the episode. But I was following along as you were mentioning the other details. But if we were just like thinking of yin and yang energy, could that help make it easier to just spot the yin and the opposite of the yang?
Uh, well, I mean, it's like both these charts have yin and yang energy to them. So that might be a little too generalized. But since you brought it up, just to explain what is yin and yang, sometimes we call it masculine and feminine, but the astrology community is kind of trying to go back to yin and yang because it's, to avoid kind of like the idea of like gender roles and things like that. But yang energy is kind of this expressive, like outwardly energy. Um, and yin energy is more like receptive and uh, more in kind of like inward kind of energy. So one is more about externalizing something, and one is more about internalizing. Pisces is yin, and all the water signs and earth signs are yin, and all the air and fire signs are yang.
Well, there is a lot more going on in these charts. And yeah, the Leo being the yang and the Pisces being the yin. But if people want to see these full charts and kind of try to play along, what do you recommend they do?
Well, you can go get the case files that contain the charts on our website at astrodetectivespod.com. And we have them available in whole sign or placidus. Or if you want to sign up for our Patreon, we'll give you access to the files with the birth data, so you can plug them into whatever system you use, like Vedic, or you can pull the transits or progressions or whatever.
At the
So
rookie detective level.
yes, at the rookie
Become a
detective level.
detective. We
And
appreciate our interns and our free followers.
And if you would like to, now I have an Etsy store too that I just recently started under Hartshorn Astrology, and that's where you can get these awesome flashcards that Scott and I are using today. And on the back, they have like a little all the details about each sign. And the set I sell on my Etsy includes all the zodiac signs, all the planets, and all the houses as well. So if you want to kind of build your astrology knowledge.
We should really make some sort of a deal where when you sign up as a rookie detective and you get the cards, there's some sort of a promo. We don't know how to work promos just yet, but if you do, let us know. What deal
Oh,
would get you involved?
well, maybe yeah, or maybe if you sign up for the rookie detective, you get these sent to you.
Whoa. Whoa. You heard it here first. This is a big
That's
one.
that's a $4.44 value. I try to keep the price low, just, accessible.
You need to print them out and laminate them, but all the info, all the valuable design and the info is what's being sent to you. And what we're going to bring to you in a minute is going to be either a Leo or a Pisces. And depending how confident you all are, you're either going to immediately spot them. I remember when we had Sergey on, you're like, he looked like a lion.
He did look like a lion.
And so it'll be curious to see who thinks they can spot the Leo or the Pisces immediately when they come in. But we're still going to ask some questions anyway, just to be on the safe side. Anything else you want to mention, Sarah?
We can leave it there. I was going to go into some details about the charts, but we'll save it.
We'll save it for the questioning, and you don't want to give away too much what we're going to be looking for. I'm going to be looking for either a yin or a yang. I'm playing it straightforward. Either they're going outward, or they're an innie or an outie.
I'll at least just say what the big three are. So the Pisces is a Pisces sun, Pisces moon, Sagittarius rising. So a lot of mutable energy there. And the Leo is a Leo sun, Libra rising, Libra moon. So they both have like a double something.
That seems common, that when one of them has a double, the other one has a double. I wonder if Mike and his Chartifier somehow...
I don't know that that's common.
No?
No.
I feel like
I don't
we've
think
seen
so.
it a couple times.
Well,
Not every
a couple
time.
isn't common.
Well, I mean, whenever a double does show up, which is not common, I think at least 50% of the time, the other one is also a double. And we have those like double doubles. Just like you want to get it in and out. The perfect double-double combination. We'll be back right after this with our double-double guest, who is either a Pisces or a Leo. Hey listeners, we're not just a podcast that tests astrology, we're an independent detective agency. That means we rely on you to help us keep the show running.
Exactly. By joining AstroDetectives on Patreon, you can support our mission to finally prove astrology is real.
Or, completely debunk it.
Here we go again.
One thing we can agree on, AstroDetectives is the only place you'll find astrologers and skeptics working together, like a buddy cop movie you didn't know you needed.
And trust me, detective work takes time, gathering evidence, late night stakeouts, solving cases, especially when Mercury's retrograde.
Okay, you can't blame Mercury.
The first step is easy and free. Just follow Astro Detectives on Patreon to get access to our debrief episodes where the conversation continues after each case ends. We break down what went right and what went wrong.
And if you want to fast track your training, become a rookie detective for only $3 a month. You'll unlock exclusive bonus episodes, plus early releases and the top secret case files sent straight to your inbox.
Or for just $1 a month, we'll make you an Astro intern. No compensation per se, but hey, you'll gain valuable detective experience and that warm, fuzzy feeling knowing you're helping us keep the lights on.
So if you like what we're doing and want to support us, head over to patreon.com/AstroDetectives and join the investigation today. Welcome back, everybody. We are now joined with Shelley. Welcome to Astro Detectives.
Thank you.
We always start with asking, where are you joining us from?
I am joining you from Portland, Oregon today.
Oh, what should we know about Portland, Oregon? We associate it maybe with foggy-ish weather, great beer, the television show that made you very famous. What do you think?
We have a lot of rivers. We have a lot of roses. This time of year is wonderful in Portland because you drive down the street and it smells like flowers. And the waterfalls in the gorge are all still flowing from winter rains.
So this is the ideal time.
It's pretty nice.
Oh man, I should have gone to Portland. I'm sitting here planning my summer vacations to get out of Southern California. All right. So so the things that you like to do in Portland sounds like outdoor nature. Are you kind of drawn to that?
Absolutely. Yes. I am here to hike and backpack and enjoy choosing the bear rather than the man, right? I came to Portland when I was seeking empty fields through which to explore during COVID.
Oh, nice. Where did you come from?
I moved directly from Chicago, but I've lived a few different places.
Okay. And seeking that wide open space, is that kind of a feeling that you've had throughout your life, or is this new, of feeling maybe constricted in the city and wanting more space and more outdoor nature?
Can I tell you a little bit more about my background?
Please do.
So I grew up in Nashville. And I moved to the West Coast for the first time for grad school, found myself in Seattle for a few years. And while I was there, I really fell in love with the forest. I didn't touch a glaciated mountain until I was 30 years old. And it was a really great experience because I think it showed me that there are moments in life where we encounter new loves, and that can happen to us over and over again, no matter how old we are. So I really fell in love with hiking in the forest. And then I went to Chicago for graduate school again. And I grieved the mountains for about 6 months. It was a very, very difficult transition. And so when COVID hit and everyone was kind of shuffling, asking the question, where do I really want to be? I think my soul wanted to be back in this little emerald strip of the Pacific Northwest so that I could play in the creeks and the rivers and the mountains and spend as much time as possible out there exerting energy. Nature is my therapy. It is my church. I love it.
Describe that moment, the glaciated mountain. That's when you get high enough that you're actually touching where the ice meets, or as far down as the glacier creeps. I can't
Yes,
picture it
so
quite.
I wasn't actually touching the glacier, but I was touching a lower part of a glaciated mountain. And so that is in comparison to growing up in Tennessee, where we have the Appalachians. And I did not encounter glaciers for the first 30 years of my life. So it was very different to be able to finally get above the tree line and have a more wild experience with taller mountains.
Mm. Now, does your line of work at all allow you to do this, or job history? How does that factor into your love of nature?
Well, one of the great things about living in Portland is I don't have to go very far to access what I'm talking about. It's an hour to Mount Hood. It's an hour and a half to the ocean. It's about 20 minutes to the gorge, right? So I have all of this nature in my backyard. In the summer, when the days are long, I can work a normal day, get off at 4 and still go hit a hike and be finished by sunset. So I think my work doesn't really impact it, even though I work Monday through Friday. I have plenty of time off and I'm an early bird. So I like to be at the trailheads at about sunrise, and I can still enjoy solitude even if I'm close to the city.
And what do you do on those work days?
What do I do for work?
Yeah.
I currently work as a paralegal.
Okay. Can you kind of describe what that day looks like?
Yeah. Sometimes I go to the office. A lot of the time I work from home. There is a lot of document review, data analysis from a qualitative perspective, not a quantitative perspective. Um, yeah, synthesizing large amounts of information into pleadings, exhibits, whatever we're looking at, whatever we're needing. Sometimes there's trial prep.
So is this kind of your assisting, like you're doing a lot of the, are you working solo and analyzing data and then passing along for it to be used?
Yeah,
Or-
so I work in a bunch of different teams. Primarily, I work with one lawyer and work as her support staff.
Okay. I'm sort of like thinking, do you aspire to be the one who's like presenting the case, or do you like kind of being behind the scenes?
I did not go to school for as long as I did to always occupy a support role. I definitely want to transition into the field that I studied and am passionate about, but I'm a mom. And as part of moving through COVID and deciding I was going to move across the country, was taking a job that I knew would pay the bills until my children are grown.
And then you're going to be presenting those cases?
I'm definitely not a lawyer.
Oh.
I considered law school for a long time. And I worked with them. I've been working for lawyers for, almost 20 years because it's the thing that I can easily fall back on that pays the bills, pays them well. But there's been a lot of grad school in the meantime. And so no, I want to teach. I'm not sure if that would be in a university setting or another type of setting, but my goal would definitely be to step out of this space where I'm no longer in the support role and I'm instead pursuing the passions that I want to turn into creative endeavors.
Can you speak a little bit more about those passions and turning into creative endeavor? Just, maybe what some of them are, what some of that motivation comes from?
Yeah, definitely. The motivation definitely comes from becoming a mother. I was a very young mom, which I think is common in the South. And when I had my kids, I looked around and thought, okay, what am I going to teach them? And the number one ways that parents teach is through our actions, right? So my kids have seen me be in school their entire lives. I have twins. And so I went back to school when they were really tiny and was able to find a little niche of philosophy of education that focuses on power dynamics between parents and children or teachers and students. Within the field of education, it's primarily conceptualized as the power dynamics between teachers and students, but I tried to map that onto family dynamics to kind of say, what does it look like to engage ethically in relationships that are structured on asymmetrical power, right? As the parent, I have the power to create reality for my children. So what am I going to do with that? So yes, I wrote a master's thesis called Parenting as a Political Pedagogy. It is a disobedient critique of the patriarchal family, and it suggests that every interaction that we have with others is educative. And when we're operating within a family structure, it's primarily educative in the ways that we're teaching what is power and what is love. So I took that a little further for my dissertation, for my PhD, and I wrote a lot more about mothering specifically as an action. And I don't think that people have to be biological parents in order to mother others. So I kind of separate the mothering action from the mothering identity and say that mothers give us a political framework that we should be pulling into our actual politics. And if we were to focus on how mothers care for their children, how they care for the people in their communities, so I make it a political argument that everyone should be a mother and that we should prioritize caring for each other.
That's interesting. If a candidate was going to run on that kind of a platform, government maybe being more in a parental role, a little disciplinarian, but also in a loving way. I don't know. Have you put thoughts into what that would sound like?
Yeah, I don't like when you say when your framing sounds very right?
Uh-huh.
The government and a parental role. It's not about that as much as it's about reconceptualizing how we understand what it means to exist as humans in this shared space in the first place. And so it's much more about a revolution of consciousness and shifting politics via the way that we interact with the people that are in our immediate surroundings every day, right? And so how are you being of service on your block? How are you being of service in your community? How are you showing up? What type of grace are you bringing to that space? Are you operating from a neoliberal understanding that all of our relations are structured through capitalism and should be perceived through market metrics? We see this a lot in like dating apps, right? Like, oh, this one's not working. Let me just find another. Let me just keep swiping and treat people like objects, treat people like products, right? Or can we shift out of that and understand the inherent value of each human life such that we make political decisions from that awareness of what it means to exist as a human?
Did you come to a certain place where you started to where this became a large part of your life and interest, or were you a kid on the playground who was kind of like talking about, guys, we should have more community and more caring about each other and rethink how our society operates?
For me, it definitely changed when I had children of my own. There are actually some books that are written about this from a perspective of epistemology. Like, what does it mean to know? How do we know what we know? And I think when you go through the physical process of carrying, birthing, and caring for children, you understand human life from a different perspective. I'll never forget when my kids were tiny, I was commuting back and forth in Tennessee, and I would be listening to NPR, and they would say, this many people were killed in Iraq today. And I would just cry because I knew that every single one of those people were someone's child. And that for me that's both sides, right? The way that American deaths are reported is very different than the way that we other the deaths on the other side in our news media. But I could feel it differently. It was the same when I started watching even movies that I had loved prior to having children. Apocalypto was one in the beginning scene when it gets kind of violent. I couldn't sit through it after having kids. Was very sensitive, much more conscious of wanting to stay away from those harsher aspects of humanity and turn much more toward caring. I think if you knew me as a child, you'd kind of be surprised at where I ended up, actually.
Well, that's what I was kind of curious what kind of a child you were and what your hobbies were back then, and maybe how you've evolved over time or just changed.
Yeah, I've always been interested in politics, but I was raised in the South, right? Where that hyper individualism is the default. The conservative, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, atomization perspective of what it means to exist as a human and within a community. So there was actually a travel abroad that shifted my perspective away from that when I was a late teenager. I studied abroad in France and I stayed with a family. The mom was a high school biology teacher and she was amazing. And she wanted to teach me everything she could, right? And she was like, I want to talk to you about the climate, and I want to talk to you about all of the changes that could be made in order to finally, really get on top of it. And did you know about the Kyoto Treaty and how the United States refuses to sign it? And it was funny because, we're so isolated here in the States. And I think as soon as you step away and you get that perspective that others have on us, you see things differently. Travel is a very important form of education. And so I was able to look back at the assumptions that I'd previously made that were rooted in my socialization and start questioning them. When I came back from that trip, I started voting differently, and my perspective just gradually went toward more and more leftist and progressive values.
I'm curious as to how your parents and maybe family responded to that, but if you could also kind of talk about your parental figures just in general and your relationship to them.
Yeah. So I'm the baby of 4, and it's funny. I'll frame it this way. recently there was some conflict among families in Tennessee, and someone reached out to my dad and said, "Can you tell Shelley to just be quiet about this?" And he said, "Lady, I haven't controlled Shelley since she was 10 years old." And I really loved that reflection. I was like, "Oh, thanks. I feel so seen right now. I appreciate that." Because at 15, I would be like, "Okay, we're at Thanksgiving and I'm going to ding the cup and I'm going to stand up and I'm going to preach to everyone about what I think you're doing wrong right now. Hello, family." Um, or moments where we would try to blend with other families. Say my parents dating someone else and we have a blended Thanksgiving and someone wants to say grace and I'll be like, "What are you doing? We don't do that in this family. I'm not going to play along with this script. What is this?" And so I was always disruptive and kind of starting conflicts, but also from a place of feeling very rooted in my own values and refusing to be performative. So across life, I would say my relationship with my father it was really good when I was small. Dad didn't get any boys. So we played a lot of sports together. We went hiking together. We did all of the things that I feel like men imagine they'll do with their sons. But I was very tomboyish as a kid and really wanted to do those things and hang out with dad. And then my parents divorced and I went with mom. And so there was some weirdness and some conflict and just some family drama, we'll call it. And then I had kids at 22. And when I had kids, I very much set boundaries with everyone because I didn't want the socialization of my early experiences to be, I didn't want it to be like that for my children. I wanted to socialize them in a completely different environment. So I set very solid boundaries. And my dad really respected that. And I would say about the time of my Saturn return, our relationship really shifted. And he came to me and was like, "You're old enough. You've been through some things. You're an adult now." We smoked weed together for the very first time that day. It was like, "I see you as a full person. I'm still going to tell you what I think you should do, but you're going to do what you want to do." And so we maintain that dynamic to this day. He comes and visits me regularly. We still do the active driving around, finding a little hike. Still a really good dynamic. I was really close to my mom growing up. In many ways, I think I am her mini, except I learned to navigate the emotional realm in a bit more of a strategic and logical way than she did. Not fully, but a bit more. Mom is a great caregiver. Her life centered around her children. She did not work. We were everything to her. So we have good memories of childhood, going to the pool, great summers while dad was working. But when they divorced, things were really hard for her. I think one of the main things I learned from my mom was that I never wanted to be financially dependent on a man. I wanted to be free to leave when and how I wanted to leave. I don't want to ask for permission to do what I want to do ever. And so our relationship is kind of the opposite. It kind of faded out a little bit over time. When I left the South and moved away, she had a lot harder time with it. And we had long periods of not communicating as a way of setting boundaries and letting her know the types of behavior that I would accept in my life and what I will not. And she's very supportive. I think everyone back there still watches a lot of Fox News and live in their little cult bubbles politically. So we don't talk politics anymore. I think I finally reached an age where I wanted to value their presence in my life more than I needed us to agree on everything. And so our relationships are pretty solid, and we have some unspoken agreements about not talking politics. Every now and then we'll touch on little pieces of it. Just, it's really helpful to see the reality of, quote, the other side, right? Like, this is how I see this thing. Like, how do you see it? And then to have that reinforcement of like, okay, we're not living in the same world. We're not thinking in the same way, none of that. But I think they respect me very much as someone who's going to be a free thinker and loud about it if I want to be. And they're not going to challenge me or judge me for it.
I'm interested how you think about conflict in general and how much of it needs to be resolved. And this can be outside of family, disagreements too, but just in general versus how much of it is keeping the peace, trying to help everyone live together.
I think that conflict is generative. And I would rather just have the conflict very directly so that we can figure out how we're going to repair and live with the realities that we both bring to the table, whoever the other person is, rather than just keeping the peace. That sounds like slowly dying inside. I could never.
Well, it's interesting as you were kind of talking about agreeing not to talk politics, that negotiation of how much of it is keeping the peace without dying inside, but respecting the other person.
I think it's different with family. And I think it's different because I have experienced death, right? And I think when we encounter death, we understand the value of life differently. And they're not going to be here forever. And I want to enjoy them to the extent that I can while I can, no matter what.
And that's not necessarily something that you would need to extend outside of family, therefore, is kind of what you're saying.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
In the way that I perceive that, particularly within educational spaces and like spaces of radical thought, is I'm not going to have these petty basic arguments with you over and over again. Instead, I would rather be over here with people who understand me, and we're going to build something beautiful such that you're going to want to come peek in the windows and see what we're doing and eventually be a part of it. I have to be like, the argument is all, there's an art to it, right? Like it has to be worth my time. The person I'm going to argue with, do I want to maintain this relationship? There are definitely some people that I've met throughout my life that I've really enjoyed arguing with. Some really good friends that I just don't agree on religion with, for example, but we'll share a lot of academic similarities, and we can sit down and have the absolute best conversations where we don't agree on anything. And it feels like a very healthy, generative, fruitful argument that really deepens our bond.
You mentioned religion, and on the survey that you filled out, thank you for doing that. And it's been a little while, I know. You mentioned that you grew up with a Christian background and now would consider yourself spiritual but not religious. Can you kind of fill in the gaps there on just your feelings around spirituality?
Definitely. I think when you grow up in the South, Protestantism permeates the culture. So we didn't actually go to church, but you can't escape the cultural religious imperatives that are absolutely everywhere. In college, I put a Darwin fish on my car, and I would have strangers come up to me and tell me Jesus loved me. I had coworkers cry and say, "Oh my God, you don't know Jesus." Like the social pressure is really, really intense. And it never vibed with me. I never agreed with their understanding of the afterlife or any of that stuff. So I definitely have kind of gone in my own direction and explored a lot of different concepts. When I was pregnant, a lot of people were pressuring me like, "Oh, you're going to raise them in church and you're going to get them baptized and you're going to do all these things." And I was like, I need to spend some time researching spirituality so that I know what I want to tell my kids. So as a result of that, I have a couple of shelves over here that are spiritual philosophy across the board. I started with major religions and then took it deeper in different directions. I consider astrology a form of spirituality, and that's based on a specific experience that I won't go into. Just because I've been asked not to, right?
Well, after we know your chart, we can get into it in the debrief afterwards,
Okay.
maybe. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I think that any alternative framework through which to make sense of our experiences can be spiritually supportive, right? And so astrology does that for me very much. And through my experiences of death, I have pursued a lot of other practices as well. I've spent time in Hindu temples. I actually really like attending Catholic Mass. I wear hearing aids so I can take them out, and I don't know what anyone's saying, which is great because being in that space is really beautiful. The windows, the incense, the organ, just the vibe. I like the vibe of that type of space as long as I don't have to hear them preaching at me. I also really like Buddhist meditation and I've spent a good bit of time. I went to the first spiritualist church, or the oldest spiritualist church in the United States, which is in Chicago. And spiritualism has a long history. It's People believe in spirits living beyond this realm. Like there are multiple energetic realms. The spirit exists beyond what human consciousness and human sense is able to perceive. And so some of those people would be mediums or otherwise engaging with the spirit world. Super interesting. I think in every city I've lived, I've looked for quirky spiritual spaces like that and just tried to go attend a service and learn more.
Interesting. I just have a couple more questions that I'm going to hand it over to Sarah for the follow-up to get into some details as she's following along. Where would you say either your strengths or your struggles are? If there's certain things that maybe you feel a little bit better, you're just naturally a little bit better at, and then some things that maybe you struggle a little bit more with than the average person.
Yeah. I love words and I love writing. I think that I am a good writer. I think that I have moments with that feel almost like spiritual practice, where I can crank out 25 pages in a day because I'm in it, you know? And I love that. It also kind of tracks onto what I do for work and like editing and some of that like harsher detail-oriented stuff. I can get into a solid flow in that space that I think is pretty good. And then I think one of my struggles is probably, to be blunt, emotional reactivity. I think that my feelings are right here, and I'm not going to pretend like they're not. And I have not yet in life learned to like take a deep breath and not respond immediately. I am pretty quick to say the thing, have the response, start the conflict, rather than sitting with it. And I could definitely continue to dig into that and learn and do better.
Interesting. And last question for me, how would your friends describe you, or maybe family, but if we had a couple people on the show and they were here just saying the first few things that came to mind when asked to describe you?
That's so hard for me, right? Because I'm not quite sure how I'm seen. That's hard for me to say.
Is how you're seen not that of interest to you?
I think when I think of friends, right? I'm thinking of so many different groups of people, and I think I present different faces in different spaces depending on the context. A lot of my workspaces have been with younger kids, and I feel like I take on a bit of like a caretaker role in that space, particularly as a teacher of astrology. I have wanted to teach. I've worked as a barista in Seattle and Chicago. And then in Portland, I did some AmeriCorps work and educational equity, where everyone I'm working with is way younger than me. And I've did everyone's charts and would like hold sessions on teaching them how to navigate their own transits and things like that, just to use astrology as a tool. So I think I am a caregiver. I think I am a teacher. And I think it's funny, even though I'm not sure how I present to others, I think that I'm always acting from a space of authenticity. Like, you know what you're going to get from me. And it's going to be very rooted in my values and my ethics and myself.
One more thing. I know I said that was the last question. You put on the survey that if you were asked to be like on a TV show or something, you would do it, but you'd be a little nervous about it. And you seem to carry yourself just very confidently in this situation. Can you talk about kind of the experience of, being on camera or just kind of like coming on a show like ours?
Yeah, I think I definitely am an extrovert who wants my quiet time and my space. And I I experienced some inner tension in like wanting to be in public spaces to speak to my values, to speak to the creative projects that I want to birth to the world. But I also very much enjoy being in those internal spiritual spaces as well. Like I have a dream. I want to go to an ashram in India and spend as much time as I possibly can. I want to go to Rishikesh and learn to be a Kundalini yoga teacher and just live there as long as I can. I want to escape different parts of society. And one of the parts of society that I find the most abhorrent is social media, the like false presentation of self that is often involved in those spaces. Yeah, it's like I don't want to be seen if it means I'm going to have conflict with strangers. Um, I don't want to be seen if I can't control how I'm being seen. I think part of that is probably my generation as well, because I did not grow up with these apps and these phones. And so I remember what life was like before it. And I don't want that to become, yeah, this is also an ideological problem for me. Um, because I think, a la Kathy Weeks, the way that the work ethic has shifted over time has become one of like self cultivation, as if I am always a product on display. And I reject that so wholeheartedly. So yeah, there's some tension between like, I have something to say and I have all these great ideas and I want to produce these zines and I want to like promote this version of politics, but I also very much just want to like be with my journal and some incense.
That's that perfect balance. Sarah, how's it sounding over there? We've got a lot to work with, and you wanna focus in on some areas that we haven't clarified?
Yeah, I have some questions.
Well,
First of all, it sounded like you were alluding to an experience with death. Did you have a near-death experience?
I witnessed the death of my partner.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. That's really tragic and really hard. I wasn't sure if I had just been listening and binging to a lot of near-death stories, and so I thought maybe that's what you were alluding to.
Yeah, can I speak to it just a little more?
Please.
I think being that close to anyone's death shifts the material experience of reality. And for months following, I felt as if I was floating through life. Um, I will never see things the same again, but that moment was a marked shift in my understanding that there is more than meets the eye. I was opened to the spiritual world in a completely new way.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So, um, okay, I have like just random questions, so I might be jumping around a little bit. Um, so some of these you already answered, so I'm gonna try and not re-ask anything. What is your sense of humor?
I need intelligent humor. Um, I love Colbert and The Daily Show, stuff like that, stuff where I can engage with what's happening with current events without it making me cry because it's so depressing, right?
Okay, good answer.
This is being recorded on the evening of Colbert's final show, just
Oh,
Heartbreak.
wait.
coincidentally.
I can't wait to see what he does next.
I actually was thinking it had already concluded. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, that's exciting. Okay. Do you have a sweet tooth?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I blame it on being Southern, but shouldn't every dinner come with dessert? I also love cooking desserts, but I'm trying to pull back and just do like a little bit of dark chocolate every day. Either way, yes.
Okay. Um, I feel like you answered so many of the questions I was going to ask. Um, can you talk? You mentioned you had a hearing issue, maybe? Can
Yes,
you
I have hereditary hearing loss. It runs
okay.
in my maternal side of the family. I recognized it at 31, and I've been wearing hearing aids since 36.
Okay. Okay. And do you have any other medical conditions? And this could be anything that doesn't seem substantial, like I get headaches or I twisted my ankle one time or surgeries or
Um, I mean, I currently have a shattered toe and a broken toe joint, which is dramatically limiting my hiking and it really sucks. But otherwise, in general, I'm pretty healthy.
Okay. Um, I guess no further questions, Your Honor. I mean, like honestly, the questions I had, I feel like you answered them, and I'm not really even sure what I feel like what you've already revealed about yourself was very telling, and I feel like I hope we have two very different charts here. So I feel like one of them is standing out to me, and I'm not really sure what other questions I could ask that would really help me at this. Normally I have like 20, 30 questions, but
I'm as
um
surprised as you are.
maybe I'll ask one of my this is kind of one of my favorite questions. Did you ever celebrate Halloween? And I'm just trying to figure out like what you would dress up as.
Yeah, I still celebrate Halloween and dress up.
Okay.
I think I have pictures from childhood. I'm like a mummy. I'm a vampire. I was like scarier things. I wasn't on the princess side of things. I think most women go through that in their 20s where it's like, I'm gonna wear a super skimpy toga and go to a frat party. I probably did that once. But since I've had kids, well, even in the last few years, I'll wear a mask and I'm like, don't call me mom. I'm gonna go trick or treat and get candy too, like just have fun with it.
Okay. All right, great. I love asking that question. Yeah, I really feel like you have really been very authentic and shown who you are, and so yeah, I'm I'm good. What about you, Scott?
Well, I could still go either way. I can make the case on either one of these charts, but you're leaning strongly in one direction, Sarah.
I think so. Um, I'm having a hard time. I'm looking at the other chart and I'm just having a hard time making it fit.
If someone were to just meet you on the street, Shelley, I don't know what in context, but you go into a coffee shop and other people in there. Is there a vibe that you think they might pick up from you? Like we're getting a certain version of you because we're asking very detailed personal questions. I'm
Mhm.
wondering like how you think maybe you come across to the stranger just kind of nearby.
I think I'm very Southern. And so when I'm engaging with people in service positions or even people nearby in that type of setting, I'm super friendly. I'm really good at small talk. That doesn't always work well in the Pacific Northwest where people don't want to be talked to. Um, but I can shoot the shit. And I think I come off as like very friendly, unless my coffee is made wrong. And as a former barista, I'm kind of particular about my coffee. And even then, I try to be really nice and I still tip really well. I just need it to be right. I think when I
Okay.
first moved to Seattle, I had a hard time figuring out how to navigate the social dynamics. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to work coffee. It's because I couldn't just talk to strangers outside. People would look at me like, who are you talking to? What are you doing? Occasionally throwing out a y'all would get someone's attention and I could have a conversation. But for the most part, I needed to be like on the other side of a counter to be like, hi, stranger, tell me about yourself. What are you doing today? Like, what do you think love is? I would have a bunch of philosophical questions that I would pass off to people. It was really great experience, but only possible in the Pacific Northwest through a structured dynamic. But that should give you an example, I think, of how I'm like normally trying to engage when I'm out and about, just in public with strangers.
Interesting. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm good, Sarah.
Mhm.
All right. So what we do on this portion is we're going to put you back in the waiting room. We're going to have a little conference together, and then we'll bring you back and see if we were right.
Sounds good.
All right. We'll see you in just a bit.
Okay.
All right, Sarah. You sound confident.
I mean, I never want to say that because if
Nah,
I'm wrong, then I look
obviously.
extra stupid. But
All
I
right.
honestly
Let's
like,
take a big swing. Don't just take these little swings. I'm not sure. Maybe.
no, I really, I feel like one chart is standing out and I can't really understand if she is the other chart.
You'll be blown away.
I don't want to say that, but
If
definitely.
she is, if she, just to get you on the record, if she is the other chart, you will no longer believe in astrology, it sounds like.
Well, I would like to pose the opposite question to you. And then I think we'll be in a standoff.
If she's the chart you think it is, that I would believe in astrology.
Right.
That if we flip a coin and it's tails, no, I'm not believing based on that.
Then we have our answer.
But if you feel that astrology does give you some sorts of certainty over which way the coin flips, that's what we're testing. And I'm saying I don't. So it's a little bit of an unequal balance, I guess, in that analogy. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think so, but
Okay.
I don't have like an argument prepared right now. I would have to take that in, think about it, and then in a week I'll have a response.
All right. We'll have an ongoing dialogue, and that'll be a new type of episode that we introduce, where we'll each have a little sentence that we say, and then we'll have time to think about it, and then we'll respond.
I'm trying to be better about as of right now, as of this moment, I'm trying
Here
to
we
be
go.
better. Yeah, be more authentic. And if my authenticity is like I don't have a response ready, maybe just say that instead of getting frustrated. You know, I think sometimes my frustration at times comes from having an emotional reaction, but not being able to put it into words yet. You know?
Yeah, I think that's way better than when people just respond to respond, and then it's like you feel like, well, they just said something to debate, to like counter whatever you say, as
Yeah,
opposed to taking in what was said and thinking about it.
Yeah. And sometimes I can feel my response, but I haven't been able to put it into words, you know, and back it up with something. So I think then maybe don't feel pressured to say something in that moment, you know, like just, I think because having a response ready to go feels empowering. But if you can't articulate your point, then then it just, I get more frustrated, you know? And so it's actually not serving me to just feel like I have to have a response to everything. Even if I don't agree, I can just understand that, like, okay, let me just take that in and reflect on it.
Yeah, thinking like, why don't I agree? You know, I love
Yeah.
that. To me, that's being like self examination.
Yeah. Which
A
I
lot of
think
people
I
are
do.
afraid to do that.
Oh, I do it all the time,
Yeah.
constantly. Um, but yeah, when I get emotional in the moment, I, and I don't have the words and thoughts ready and prepared, it comes out like frustration.
We should have
And
little cards that we show when we're feeling emotional, and I'm like,
oh my God. I think that's what our face is for, right?
That's
Can't we
right.
just like emote?
yeah. We just have to be good at reading our faces. All right, all of this, I'm just stalling because I was like trying to
Yeah.
figure out which one I'm going to pick. Fine, I'm going to go. I've got my card in my hand,
Okay.
my beautiful card that Sarah sent me. Hopefully, the first time I use these cards, Sarah, I'm not burned by holding up the wrong one.
Okay.
So you ready?
Yes.
On four technically, but on three. 1, 2, 3. Leo.
Pisces.
All right. Now, Sarah, I 100% can make a case for Pisces, but Leo, I'm going with she comes in and performs her beliefs, and I think that holding of the spotlight is central to her, and the Libra kind of plays along with, you know, her coming across, especially to strangers, a little bit more easygoing, liking to keep the peace, literally working in
Did she want to keep the
law.
peace? It sounded like a lot of things she didn't want to keep the peace. She was talking about dealing with conflict, just get it over with.
But I think like she was talking about that contrast of well, keeping the peace with family, trying to make like having designs on how society should function, and with more of like she was describing how strangers should interact to each other as, you know, almost like family as opposed to everyone out for it for themselves.
She said, keeping the peace sounds like slowly dying inside.
And then and then I clarified. I was like, how does that work with
Yeah.
with how you were describing family and society? So I definitely felt that there was some tension in those, but to me it was that, you know, Leo and Libra, but obviously Pisces, she's very spiritual now. Sagittarius, if that's something that explains being, you know, more bold and just pushing through, although I don't remember that being a Sagittarius quality. I thought that was more curiosity and exploring, which she does. But
I'm mostly reading, well, a lot of the Sag was coming through for me, a lot of the Saturn right on the ascendant in that chart. So I was getting a lot of Saturnian stuff from her. And then the Mars, Uranus in the first house, like conflict, rebellion. And so that's
I love
what,
it.
yeah.
You'll get no argument from me because I was struggling back and forth. And if she's the Pisces and we had like a Jesus character, I could totally see her preaching to the flock and having the Sermon on the Mount of how the world should work and having
Yeah,
people
I
sitting
mean, she
there.
was very much like seems like kind of.
But to me, that's also Leo. Leo
Obviously
is standing
not.
on the mount.
You know, she doesn't have maybe like the softness of, you know, the Jesus character that I initially, or archetype that I was initially saying. But I mean, she's definitely someone who deeply cares about humanity, society, consciousness, and people. But so I think her conflict and standing up and speaking her truth comes from like this place of love, you know, this understanding that this moral, yeah.
Yeah. And to me, we've got a Leo on the mount.
Okay.
But we could debate it
Well-
all day, but luckily we have the answer waiting for us in the waiting room, and we're going to reveal it if we're right or wrong right after this. Hey, listeners, we're not just a podcast that tests astrology. We're an independent detective agency. That means we rely on you to help us keep the show running.
Exactly. By joining AstroDetectives on Patreon, you can support our mission to finally prove astrology is real.
Or, you know, completely debunk it.
Here we go again.
One thing we can agree on, AstroDetectives is the only place you'll find astrologers and skeptics working together, like a buddy cop movie you didn't know you needed.
And trust me, detective work takes time, gathering evidence, late night stakeouts, solving cases, especially when Mercury's retrograde.
Okay, you can't blame Mercury.
The first step is easy and free. Just follow Astro Detectives on Patreon to get access to our debrief episodes where the conversation continues after each case ends. We break down what went right and what went wrong.
And if you want to fast track your training, become a rookie detective for only $3 a month. You'll unlock exclusive bonus episodes, plus early releases and the top secret case files sent straight to your inbox.
Or for just $1 a month, we'll make you an Astro intern. No compensation per se, but hey, you'll gain valuable detective experience and that warm fuzzy feeling knowing you're helping us keep the lights on.
So if you like what we're doing and want to support us, head over to patreon.com/astrodetectives and join the investigation today. Welcome back, everybody. We're back here again with Shelley, and she's here to let us know if we are correct in our guesses. Sarah and I are on two different pages this time. I was a little bit more conflicted between the two. I could make a case for both. And Sarah, a little bit more directed in one direction. I'll let you know, Shelley, we were choosing between a Leo and a Pisces. Hopefully, sun signs. Hopefully that is one of those is yours. Great. I'll be asking for the one I chose, and if I'm wrong, Sarah's going to be thrilled. Shelley, are you a Leo?
I am.
Oh boy!
Oh, shoot. Okay.
This is exciting. This has only happened once before. I gotten it right and Sarah got it wrong.
Oh boy.
We are going to connect all the dots in the debrief episode. It'll make it especially fun. But before we sign off, Shelley, is there any place that you'd like to send our audience or anything you'd like to leave them with to think about or do?
That's a great question. I think that we should all think about the power that we wield in our everyday lives and how we wield that power over those around us who are most vulnerable, like our children. And I hope that we're all living in ways that we want the golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated, and know that your everyday actions have massive impact on the world. And that is the place to make change if you need to make a change. Thank you.
I agree. Every little bit adds up to big things. Yeah. Well, that's it, everyone. Let us know what you thought by commenting on whatever platform you follow us on. Links to our accounts are in the show notes. As always, thanks to Mike, our IT guy, and his random Chartifier thingy. It worked out well for me this week. Thanks, Mike. If you like the show and want to support it, you can visit patreon.com/AstroDetectives, where this conversation continues on the free Patreon-only debrief. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube so you don't miss the next episode. Rate and review and tell your friends. And until next time, this case is closed.